Morning, guys. I'm Miles Baker here with World Champion header Matt Sherwood and PRCA Team Roping Director. We're going to talk about where some teams are after round 6, talk about some controversy that's went on the week with the Crossfire rule. Figured Matt would be the one to bring in here. He knows the rules and real good at breaking that stuff down. So be a little different than just giving y'all numbers and breaking stuff down, and kind of let you on the inside of the controversy, what's going on, and maybe what the calls should have been and weren't, and look into these teams and hopefully give y'all an insight going forward.
Get ready to go.
Watch that horse. Boy, this could be fast. Can he heal it? He does. Perfect time to do it again tonight.
So the first team we're going to talk about is Tanner and Patrick. They've had the best week of anybody. I think they've won about 90,000 so far, and looks like they're just 40,000 away if it ended tonight, which, you know, ifs and buts, but if it were to end tonight, I think they're 40,000 behind Caleb and Junior in the race, which seems incredible with the lead that Caleb and Junior come in. Caleb and Junior haven't had a bad week at all. I think they've won about 50,000. They're just one steer down in the average, 4 rounds left. It's hard to bet against these guys that they can't, you know, stay ahead going forward with as dominant as they are in this arena. And we've talked about it, their run is so fast in this arena. They're just solid, smooth run wins rounds, and so it's hard to bet against these guys going forward. Junior D's, Levi Lord, 3rd in the average. They've won 73,000 this week. They've won as much as anybody behind Tanner and Patrick, so they're having a real good week. Coleman and Logan, 2nd in the average, won about 50,000 this week. Really doing a good job. Logan's healing really good. Coleman in this arena, when he's on, you know, he does a great job. Looks great. Lightning caught his stride last night. I think won 2nd in the round.
Yep, 4-1.
4-1, yeah. Looked really good. So it's exciting to see now that he's in a groove, what he's got coming the rest of the week's got 4 steers left to make a move and get some round money won, and everybody's been excited about watching him. So he's caught his stride, and I'm excited to see what he does going forward.
Yep.
The minors, they've also caught 5. They're 5th in the average. I look for them to keep knocking them down, keep making some runs, get a good average check out of it. So with Tanner and Patrick 1 steer up in the average, you know, everything looks pretty good for them as far as that goes. I think even if they were on the same page as everybody else, they would still be ahead. So they've got a lead in the second and a lead on the steer.
That's what I think is huge, is not just 1 steer up, but they're up on time. So if something did happen, they're still winning.
Yeah,
they're still winning the average. So they're almost two steers up, you know, because they're so much ahead on time and they're 1 steer ahead. So they're in a great position on the average.
Yeah, they've done a great job creating little insurance for themselves in there, and I don't see them backing down. What Tanner does good is his catch mode is so fast. So I don't think he has to change anything he's doing, and Patrick's done a phenomenal job catching them. So I'm excited, and that's kind of where we're at. We're going to look into some of these runs.
So to me, this is the run that, when you look back on this week, this is a run that I think is going to be like, wow, that's the run that won us a world championship. Because if you go back, Tanner curls the nose, so it would have been real easy when either it stays tight on the nose and it's illegal, or sometimes when that comes off the nose, I've had it come all the way off the left horn, and so it would have been real easy to wave off. See right there where there's slack in it, it's real easy for that to wave off, and then because of that, it gave that steer a little bit of delay. So if you watch where Patrick ropes his steer from, it's just a great job of healing. He's coming in, he's still gaining when he heels the steer. He ends up a little bit too close, just heels him. His horse does a good job as soon as he throws separation and backs up, helps Tanner get the flag. Just a great job on a steer that could have went bad on the head. The head, you know, could have had an illegal head catch, or could have came off, and then Patrick does a great job of healing him, keeping him, and then helping him get the flag.
I want to look at Patrick's hill shot right here, because this was really tough.
Look how big that hop is right there.
Yeah, and I think that's what got him so tight. I think right here he probably feels like he has enough separation coming in, But this steer, he starts his hop here, and that hop takes a long time. So now all of a sudden, you've got Patrick in here too tight. And you can see he's drawing on his reins and pulling his shoulders back, and that makes it tough to get enough bottom strand on the ground, and does a good job. This is what I think so impressive, is that he was too close, he's pulling back, and he goes on and stays down with his bottom strand to make sure. You can see he's got rope set on the ground right here, stays with his bottom strand long enough for that steer to get in it.
Yeah, and the steer does a good job keeping him. Look how high he comes up on the next jump.
Yep.
That steer comes up, and look at his horse backing up, trying to help him get the flag.
Yeah, from watching it from the stands, seeing how it shaped up right there, it made me real nervous, and Patrick did exactly what he needed to do to make sure that they stayed out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So this is round 5. Real good solid run. 4-9 right here. Steer come left. Clay Trine run this steer earlier in the week. These guys probably were aware of what the steer does, but they did a really good job making a good solid run. What'd you see in this one, Matt?
Patrick did a great job. That steer did go left and tried a little bit, and Tanner gets it on and moves him so good. Patrick did a good job of, like, if you go back just a little bit, if you look at where he has to go from and get to heel that steer, he has to get here and then all the way around and get where he can heel that steer. His horse drives over there. You can look at him with his left hand. He is trying and trying. He knows where that steer is going to be when he has to heel him. He does a good job of not panicking. I think there was one legal hop before that, but unless his horse set up right there, that steer's legal. He could have heeled him, but horse is already setting up. Easy shot for him. He does a good job as he's dallying, his horse is backing up, helping Tanner get the flag, pull him off the fence. There's a little bit, like right there, you can see where that rope is right there. So it's on the ground, but watch where Patrick backs up. His horse is pulling that steer back, takes the slack out of the rope and helps him. I think they won 4th or 5th that night. Pretty good check for a 4-9 at the NFR.
Yeah, it looked really good. It was good. This lady, she's impressed. You can tell she's happy with the run. Got a lady clapping here. Mo's on, maybe looking for that horse to see if he can do some tricks at a horse sale.
Just talking to Tanner about him right now.
Yeah, he's like, good job, Tanner. Let's put that horse in a sale and get some dogs on it, see if we can sell it for $250,000. On to the next one, round 6. This run, wow, on the start. Holy cow. I was sitting where I thought he broke the barrier, and I'm sure he was a little nervous too. You can
go back one string, watch him. He realizes he's early and gets a pretty good pull right there.
That pull saved him. What little it made a difference, but you can tell when he pulls on his horse right here, his horse kind of elevates, comes across there, and it makes him take one more swing right here that he normally doesn't take. But there was a difference maker to make sure that he threw a shot that he knew he was going to get. Where I seen it make the most difference on being that close to him in the start was the angle he had on the steer. Was when he throws, he's pretty dang close to this steer, and he has, unless he just pulls his horse down right here and lets that steer come around, the way it sets up, and even Patrick.
Look how far by he is right now.
Yeah, Patrick's way by the steer, and it was nearly like the situation of to where a steer checks off, but with the angles of the run and the way it had to go, it was hard to keep that steer just perfectly clean, and Patrick did an amazing job heeling this steer. You can see how spread out he is. So once again, these guys are proving why they're out in front leading the average. They've had a few situations that weren't ideal and have capitalized on them, and I guess that's what it takes to be winning the average.
Well, you mentioned it, but it's so hard. When you, for me at least, when you get ready for the NFR, it's just half full throw every time. If you hit the barrier 2 swings, you should be throwing. So Tanner does a good job, and it's so easy when you pull. Just like you said, your horse comes up, your body comes up, and your tip comes up. And so if you throw out of your second swing, a lot of times you miss the right horn because your tip's up.
I think happened to Clay Smith when the steer took a bad start and he got caught in between swings, and going for the round and carried it and missed the right horn.
Missed the right horn.
Yep.
And so Tanner, you know, you don't realize how short a time you have to make that decision. So he pulls, he gets his second swing where he wants to be throwing, but he's smart enough to get one more swing, get his tip down, leveled off, and he even gets the neck. You know, he gets his tips all the way down, make sure he covers the steer's head, gets the neck, which I'm sure he wasn't trying to, but who cares? You know, the steer still takes it really good. Patrick's going to heal him. Just an amazing job. You have 0.2 of a second, maybe 1/10 of a second to realize I got to take one more swing and get my tip down where I can catch that steer.
Yeah, and something that could have happened. We talked about earlier in the week. What I liked about this head horse was, if anything, in this arena, he's maybe a tick too free. Like, he wants to go up and out, but if that horse, just the way it sets up, and with the rest of the controversy this week, if that horse ducks, he sends that steer's hips this way right here. But you can see the steer's coming up, or the horse coming up, the steer's with him, and that lets Pat cross the cow right here, and everything's legal. And, you know, like I said, the steer's a little spread out, and it was a little bit of a tougher shot, but if Pat's that far by this cow and he swings him and Patrick kills him right there, one, you're in a crossfire, or two, you're headed back this direction as opposed to this direction.
Yep.
And it just, the way that horse stepped up, I liked that, because it gave Patrick a good place to cross the cow and a good shot without washing everything out. I thought it was a good job.
Great job. Go back to where that steer's leaving the chute and just talk about the difference of a steer that goes left versus a steer that kind of straight and to the right, because these guys are 4-3 right here with an extra swing on the head shot. But the difference of this steer that comes, look where that steer's going, and go back a little bit even more. Watch Patrick right here. That steer's moving to the right just a little bit. You see Patrick coming down the arena. He even has to just pull his horse over just a little bit. Go back just a little bit more.
Yep.
So on a steer that moves off to the right, they're 4-3 with an extra head swing, versus a steer that goes left. Patrick has to ride really hard to get there. They're 4-9. So that's the difference of a steer that right there he pulls his horse off to the right. Right there you can see his left hand.
Yep.
That's the difference of a steer that goes to the right. You can be 4-3 easy versus a steer that goes to the left. And for me, that's such a hard shot when the steer is moving left. This is so much of an easier shot, and you're 0.6 faster on a steer that goes right.
Yeah, this is another thing that makes this guys in the situation that they're in this week is, you come from round 5, strong steer straight to the left. You come from this a step to the right, and like you said, you know, you can tell how much Patrick has to work to keep some distance. You know, his horse left lead, go a few more strides, he has to pick him up. His horse comes back right lead, and then left lead. And as a healer, I can imagine that you're like, I'm too close, I'm too far away, and then when you come back, you're just hoping there's some timing there to pick up, and that's again where Tanner steps that steer out in front of him. And at this point in the run, everything's back to being composed and normal, but making some really fast adjustments on the fly, getting steers caught. It's looking good for these guys, just 40,000 down. It's crazy to think that somebody actually gave themselves a little bit of a chance, and now Caleb and Junior are so dominant that I imagine they start standing on the gas about right now, but these guys are dang sure going to give them a run for it.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. Tanner Rope's so aggressive that just catching, they're still going to, they're still going to be in the short 4s every night. If they just keep catching, they're going to keep winning money in the go round.
I agree. This was the round win from last night. We always, whatever time we do this, we try to talk about the round win. This was a really good run. Really about as fast and as clean as you can hill a steer. Chad did a great job. I like this horse for him in here. He's finishing strong. He's giving him good flat goes. Joseph, they get a good finish right here. I like that. That hill horse, he gets still, gets strong on the end of it. Joseph doesn't run any rope, gets it shut down good. What do you see right here, Matt?
Well, same thing. Look at the angle that steer leaves the chute. He's just fading straight or off to the right, and it gives Chad so much arena. But Chad does a good job of getting, right as he's getting the steer, he comes back up the arena just a little bit where he has plenty of arena to finish. If you watch, he never gets into the wall at all. Okay, 2 swings, he gets it on him fast enough where a lot of guys would possibly get into the wall, but where that steer stays straight, Joseph obviously heels him first legal jump to where he doesn't, helps Chad not get into the wall. But see where that horse is digging back up the arena to where he never gets near the wall. I mean, obviously great heel shot. Joseph finishes really good, but there was no wasted waiting on him to get off the wall, waiting on him. You know, we've seen a lot of guys today where or this week where the head rope's on the ground.
Yes,
it was never a loose, never 1 second where that head rope was loose. And as soon as he got finished, you know, it was a lot of times all of us sitting at home, you know, complain about the flaggers too slow or different things, but he's got to wait for those guys to get tight. And Chad, it was easy to flag him fast right there because he was tight the whole time.
Yeah, it looked like a picture-perfect run to me because Chad, he goes a little bit farther than maybe some guys that are just gunning for the rounds are going to go, but the way like you said, he takes no wasted motion. He sees where Joseph's at. He doesn't hang the steer too long, steps him out. You can see everything's going this way for a minute. Joseph's riding. What Joseph will do is sometimes crazy to me, but he'll get so far down the pin. Like if you watch this run from a different angle, you're like, he's so far by that he doesn't have a chance. And then when the dust settles, you're like, he did exactly what he wanted, because what you can't see on this clip is where the steer's at and where Joseph's horse is at. You know, when we watched it at a different angle, what do you think? He's 4 or 5 foot by the steer's hips.
Well, look at him. He's crossing over right here. You can see where he's pulling his horse back, crossing over. He's already picking him up right there.
That was an amazing
Joseph
shot.
finishes really well. You know, he finishes so good.
Yeah, and like I said, Chad's nowhere near the wall. That horse finishes good. This is just a good, solid run.
Yeah.
It's the run that you probably like to try to make 10 times in a row, but you can only imagine how tough it is just to make it a couple times.
That's the run you make when you're getting ready for the NFR, that you're like, we're going to go out there and we're going to be 10 times in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do it. And then you get there and it's a little bit different.
So next, we're going to go into the controversial side of this. Be kind of fun. There's been a lot of speculation on Facebook and everywhere else. So what a lot of people don't have access to that we're giving you access to is this replay. We can just do frame by frame and show you that probably what the flagger can't see when it's happening in real time. I know sitting there watching it in real time, the first thing you think, you know, is crossfire or not crossfire, but we can show you on this maybe what the call should have been, what the call was, and break down exactly what happened. And it gives us an insight to give you the steps that the steer took on, whether the flagger could see those steps or not, like we can in slow motion, what the calls should have been. Round 2, this is where he doesn't get called out.
Right, so they're 4-1 right here, and you know, like you said, we have an advantage of being able to sit here, and we watched it 3 or 4 times already, and we're going to watch it in slow motion. But I would have flagged this one out. Steer never quite hits, and then when he swings, you know, when he swings so far into the heel loop, okay, right there, go forward. Steer's still getting legal. Clay's coming back up the arena really good. Steer's never quite lined up, and then now when his butt hits out here, he's already got him roped. Where the steer hits right there, and now when he jumps forward, I feel like that steer is legal. Where he landed in the heel loop, he's already roped him before he's legal.
So I'm being the devil's advocate here. This is why we called the director in to make these calls. So you think if this steer plants right here and goes away, he's for sure legal?
Yes, sir, I do. But like if you go back where that steer he never hit. He's still shuffling around the corner, and then you watch the next jump, he hits both feet out. Right there, he's still not legal, and he's got him roped. And now where he lands with both feet right there, when he jumps away, I feel like that steer would be legal, but I don't ever feel like that steer was legal before the heel loop got down there and roped him.
Yep.
And what people don't understand, you know, like you see so much stuff on Facebook about, you know, that he was legal and should have let him have it and all this, but the flagger has a responsibility. One, he's doing the very best he can. But he has a responsibility to the other team ropers that if he thinks it's an illegal shot, to flag him out. If he thinks it's legal, because it's not fair to the other guys for him to like, well, it's probably illegal, but I'm going to let it go. You know, so it's just so tough for the flaggers. And like, I mean, they were 4-1 right there with a loose head rope face. He's got such a short window to decide, was that legal or was it not legal. So anyway, to me right there, I felt like he threw before that steer was legal, roped him. They didn't flag him out. They were 4-1. Should have could have been maybe 3, 5, or 6. Clay had just a little bit of loose rope, and he had to wait on him to get tight before he flagged him, but still won the go around.
So it's interesting for me to sit here and visit with you about it, because I see what it looks like, and in watching it in real time, it's easy to say, well, the steer hit right here, so anytime after that initial hit. But as from the director and a judge's standpoint, you're seeing the hop away. So the steer's never took a hop away. He's still swinging down the arena, and then this would be the first hop away, is what
right
you're
there.
saying. Yes,
For
sir.
how I would look at it. I was in the stands on that one, and when he threw, in my mind, I was like, he's gonna flag him out. I felt like that was a crossfire, and same way, like you see that rope. I mean, here's the head rope. I mean, he has a lot of rope, and so they were going to be really fast. It took him just a little bit to, and you look at Jake pulling back. He's helping him get the flag the best he can. And
in Jake's situation, guys that are veteran healers like that, he knows probably if he doesn't get him right there, I mean, they don't even get to complete a run without a fiasco over here in the corner where, he went, the steer come up the rope, Clay is already in the wall as it was with where he did heal him, and so, golly, you're talking about hundredths of a second having to make decisions on
absolutely
what you're going to do. And what's tough about it, we see him come back here in round 4 and get called out. And what's crazy, there's obviously some gray area. And here in a minute, I want you to talk about how the rules changing in 2023 with rodeos that are adding, I think, more than 5,000. But there's some gray area, and when you make that first call of the week, everybody's waiting for something borderline to happen to see, okay, what are we going to get away with this week, and what are we not going to be able to get away with? And the way it's set up, great hill shot, this is what we can do, this is how fast we can get them. Whatever that is, will now come into round 4, he gets the same look and more or less gets punished for it. They call him out right here. And from my point of view, this one, the last one, you could shoot the ball either direction, but this when we slow motion this for y'all are going to see how legal this shot is, and Jake gets called out for it. So golly.
Okay, so let's talk about it, and I feel the same way, but and hopefully we'll see the difference right here, because when you watch this full speed, this steer does kind of swing into the heel loop, and so you think, well, he swung into the loop, it was a crossfire, but the difference right here, see, so keep going. So watch where that steer's feet hits. Now, okay, so pause it right there. So he's already throwing, but look where that steer, like you're talking about Clay, that steer's butt and head are completely lined up right there with both feet on the ground. Okay, so to me, that steer's legal right there. Yep. When his butt and head are lined up and his back feet are on the ground, but this steer still swings. Watch his butt now. So his feet went from here to landing over here. Now his butt's past his head, so it makes it look like he swung into the heel loop, and which he did. But I feel like once his head and butt are lined up and his feet are on the ground, that steer's legal.
Yep.
So like in this arena, it makes it a little bit worse because head horses want to come back up the arena anyway, so it makes that steer's butt swing down the arena, make it look worse than what it really is. So, like, same way. These guys have a split second to make the decision. Possibly feels like, man, the other night he might have been a crossfire. This one he still swung into the heel loop. Flag him out tonight. So kind of feel bad that they were 3-4 here and got flagged out in a shot that where we have the advantage of going this speed. Probably would have let him go. And the one before he didn't get flagged out, which felt like it was a crossfire, but.
Yeah.
I have the mentality, and Jake, you watch him get flagged out, and he kind of just shakes his head and walks out. Took it really good, but I have the mentality kind of like you live by the 3, you die by the 3. If you throw right there and that steer swings into your heel loop every time, you're going to get flagged out sometimes, and you're not sometimes. So he does a good job of healing fast. He's super aggressive. Every once in a while, you get flagged out.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm being the devil's advocate here. I'm asking questions that our viewers are thinking the same thing, and two, I told them I was excited to get to break it down with you, because you know the rules. You're the director. You have to deal with this stuff all year long on whether calls were made right and figuring that stuff out. So I was excited to get your point of view, and I want to ask you the questions and understand it the way that I want our viewers to understand it. So basically what we're getting at here is there was this jump that compared to the other run. The other steer, he also took a jump where he hadn't completely swung into the hill loop, and we could see that, you know, his feet were on the ground, and we'll go back and look at that just a second to compare them. But where this shot to you is unquestionably legal is that this steer's next hop, when he heels him, is going, everything's in line, and it's leaving, headed out of there.
Mm-hmm. Even like go back and play that full speed, and you'll be able to see where that steer swings into the heel loop. You know, so it's easy for the judge to feel like he swung into the heel loop, that's a crossfire. But because we have the advantage of slowing it down and seeing where that steer's butt and head, his feet are on the ground, he's lined up, to me that's when that steer gets legal.
Yep.
Okay, so even though he does swing into the heel loop, once he's legal, obviously he never becomes illegal again. So before the rope ever gets there, the steer's legal. So
yeah, and a lot of just watching it in slow motion, you can think a lot of the reason that steer did take that other swing is right here. You know, he's completely in tow. Clay's horse is changing his stride, as you can see right here, to where like that horse is so sharp in this arena, he knows it as good as any horse here. But you can see he has that steer's head. Well, right in here, you can see the steer's getting his head back just a little bit. And when he can do that, it almost frees that steer's hips up to look like he swung down the arena. When in all reality, if Clay has somewhere to go right here to finish, if he can
keep
go
driving.
up here,
Yeah.
that steer probably never swings again.
Well, too, like look, when that steer left to shoot, he left kind of at this angle, which put Clay back at this angle, where the other steer was more straight, and that steer rounded and caused him to swing down the arena a lot further. So
Yeah.
I think Jade does an amazing job of really reading where that steer's hips hit, and he does a good job of letting that steer's hips hit out and then heel them when they jump away. So I think that let's watch a couple of his heel shots and be able to kind of compare the two.
I want to come back to Joseph's here in a minute, because like we talked about, if you could draw a run on a board and say I want to make this run 10 times in a row, where there's no question on the steer's right, the steer's left, how he leaves, how he does anything, the steer was honest, he was straight, the heel shot was as fast as you can heel one, and there'd be no gray area. And so here in a minute I want to look at theirs too. This is Clay and Jade.
Okay, so go back. So look at the angle, like when this steer comes out and he angles to the left, just like right there you can see, look where the steer's at. You know, he's come out to the left, so it puts Clay having to come back up the arena. But Jade does a great job of letting, in case, you can do it in slow motion. Jade does a great job of letting that steer's hips hit and then heel him when he jumps away. Right there, go back a little bit. Okay, so go forward. That steer's not legal right there. His hips swing down the arena and hit. You can see where his feet hit out. And now when he jumps away, steer is legal, which is 3-8, great run. Look, they're all the way over here on the left fence. Clay's coming almost straight back up the arena. To still be 3-8 right there is just a great run on that steer.
Yeah.
But I just think Jade does a really, really good job every time of being able to read when that steer's hips hit out, and then get his heel loop down there when they jump away.
Something I'm constantly studying these guys, trying to learn something about heeling, and something that you've probably noticed that I think Jade does even more of than most heelers is how much separation he keeps through the turn. So whether the steers, goes left or straight or right, he generally has the same amount of separation with him and the cow coming into the turn. And sometimes a crazy run to me this year was when they win Cheyenne. Jade looked like he was 25 foot behind the cow, and the cow turns, and I'm panicking for him, like, you're behind, and he heels him, comes tight, like, it worked just how he planned. But I think that separation lets him have momentum. Like we said, the steer swings, the steer's leaving him right here, and he's in the front of his saddle setting his rope down, whereas something that I think could happen is if he's too close to the cow right here and he doesn't set it down, he's already lost momentum, enough momentum through the turn that this hop away isn't going to be this forgiving. You know, he's in a good spot. His horse is good, staying with him through his throw, and he can set his rope down, as opposed to if he has too much separation and has to pull off and kill his momentum through the corner, that next hop is a prayer way out there. Well, prayer for most people, not him.
So go back a couple of strides. This is okay. Go forward just a little bit, where he just starts to make his delivery. One thing that just talk like go back one stride. Okay, so one thing just talking about right there, healing, I guess, for our viewers. Jay does an amazing job, but if you look at where his loop is. There's his heel loop, right there. His tip is just right there. To me, the most common thing that people do is they get their loop way too far through and way too far, and they get the inside leg. Jay does amazing job of getting his tip. Like he's almost having to reach around that steer because of the angle right there, and he still just gets his hand. I mean, look at his body posture. And Jade's tall and uses a pretty big loop, so he's able to heel steers out in front of him a little bit, which kind of forces or makes him have to keep that separation so he can heel him where he wants to. But just an amazing job right there of being in the correct position all the way through the corner on a tough steer and just doing what he's supposed to do. Yeah.
It's crazy looking at, where you're like, his tip is right here, and just shoot it forwards a couple frames. He has a big gate set.
This is a back strand of his rope right here.
Yep.
Man, that's beautiful.
Wow.
So let's look at the other one.
We're sitting here acting like it should surprise us that he threw a loop a steer couldn't get out of, but.
Well, he gets a leg on the next one, but I still want to talk about how good he read the corner and let that steer's hips hit. So this one, a little bit different, different angle right there. That steer stays really straight, stays kind of pushing into him a little bit, but he still just does an amazing job of letting that steer's hips hit right there. Go back just a little bit. So same thing, that steer's not legal right there. Go forward, not legal. But then when his feet hit right there, they're coming down. Jade, look at like what you're talking about. Look at that separation. Look how far away he is. Heel loop still down.
I wish it was clear enough that we could see where in there he ended up with a leg. You can see the steer has his head back. And his legs are kind of spread out. Almost looks, it's the same hop as like a steer that was going to pull a leg on you. But I wish I could see in here where he lost that leg, or where he, if he split them.
Well, if you look at the angle of that steer, just like you said, that steer is right there. So go one whole hop. Even from there to look at where his butt is now he's going. So I agree. You can't tell if he ropes a right leg or if he slips a leg, but I think the difference of that steer going at this angle at first and then back to this angle when his heel loop gets there, it causes him to either slip a right leg or slip a left leg or just rope the right leg.
Yeah. So something, with the controversy that we broke down today, something I'm seeing that you talk about every time is that when you're saying the steers are getting legal, is when they take that first hop out of there with the steer, as opposed to thinking about it, from home or from a different perspective. You're thinking, well, the steer hit, his back end hit when the head rope was tight, and then he swung. So since the head rope was tight and he hit, you can look at it a lot of different ways, but the way you're making it so clear is that if that steer's not coming out of there going with the head horse, if he's in his initial swing down the arena and he hasn't went with the head horse, and the old in tow theory, they can be in tow swinging that way, or they can be in tow going that way, but until they leave the turn going with the head horse, it's not legal, is what you're
that's correct. Go back one more time. And like this, to me, this one's really easy. And some of them, like the one, both of Jake Long's really. So go forward. So that steer's still bending, but then right there when his feet hit, so look at his body. You know, same. That to me, that's an easy one to diagram. Well, like his swings out, his feet hit the ground, and that's a legal jump away. So those are pretty easy to do. Where some of them, the steers are they never have that corner and go away. They're more like a circle, and then they heel them. So it's a lot harder to read. Yep. Where did that steer get legal, or yep. was he even legal when he threw?
And I think over the years we've seen that with Caleb and Junior a lot, where like Caleb has so much control of his head horse. And his loops and things are so tight, so when he ropes and steps them up, instead of a steer hitting and swinging, a lot of times they almost go boom, 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 and it makes it probably a little deceiving as to when that cow's leaving. But at the same time, it's hard to say that he doesn't have the cow coming with the head horse out of that turn, because there's never a moment where like angles don't line up and the cow hits and maybe gets his head back or something. It's so controlled that I think a lot of times it's let Junior heel steers faster and it be obviously legal than, you know, a lot of times when a cow hits and swings down the arena or different things.
Andrew Ward does that a lot. He ropes and pushes forward, and those steers kind of make a corner, and it lets Buddy heel them. But there really never is a really hard corner. It's just a circle almost.
I wanted to look at Joseph. So Chad does a good job stepping up and does as much as he can with moving the cow without getting the cow to swing too far down the arena. And that's, like we said a few times, this is the run that, you know, probably before you come out here you hope that you can make. But, you know, Chad takes the steer up through the corner, he hits, and then now we're headed out of there going with the head horse across the arena, and Joseph heels him first hop. And that's a run where, you know, I've heard you say it, that you can go out there a third or halfway in the arena and make this run and win round money every night, and there's no question about when he could have healed him or wow, he had to do an amazing job to get that steer healed. That's just a picture perfect run of how you probably want it to be every single time.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because it looked so easy for those guys to make that run. You know, but if you go back and look at the first 5 nights, I think they were 4-4 and they had placed one time before that, you know, so just a lot of it.
Basically, it's hard to put that run together.
Yeah, it's harder than you think, even though when they do it, you're like, wow, that's freaking easy for those guys. But that steer, you know, the steer comes a little bit to the right or dead straight. He freaking takes the handle really good. Chad does an amazing job. It's tight to the horns. He just picks his head up and makes him super easy for Joseph to heel. So when it works and they do it, you're like, wow, they could do that every time. But that was their best run of 6 so far. So it's not as easy, you know, all the steers are different. Some of them come left, they don't all take the handle like that. You know, we've seen steers just be pretty hard to heel. So even though they do it right there and it looks super easy, I think that, to me, you know, there's so many guys, we talked about it, the team roping's been pretty soft compared to other years. It's, you know, 2 legs placed last night. The steers have good horns. They're not quite as big as they've been in the past. They should be easier for these guys to get it on. It seems like the easier the rounds get, the faster guys are trying to be. And where if you just go and make that run, 4-2, 4-3 is going to win a lot of money and set yourself up to win a lot in the average.
Yep. This was the one we started with, and so now that I kind of understand the way you're viewing it, you know, this was the round 2 steer that they didn't call out, that obviously made it to where they dang sure shouldn't have called him out in round 4, was when he heels this steer, he's not going with the head horse yet. He's still swinging down the arena, as opposed to basically the same shot in round 4, where right, you know, here when he throws, the steer is already going with the horse.
Well, go back. This is, you know, like I said, I would have flagged this out live time, but this is closer or closer to being a legal shot than you think. Also, even though he swung really bad into the heel loop, like that steer just never, he's kind of cross-hopping the whole way. He hits right there, one foot spreads out, but so you know, like right there, that steer's back feet are on the ground, but his front feet are up and his body's still, you know, he hasn't quite lined up yet to where when he heels him, so go forward. So now that steer's lined up, but he's already got him roped. Where the one before, the one that they did get flagged out, that steer stepped left, and so his back feet hit, and he's lined up, where that one was just a half a circle, and then he heeled him when his feet finally did hit.
Yep. Yep.
Both those runs are so tough to flag. You know, so tough to flag. You want to be fair to the other 14 guys and not let them win the round on a Crossfire, but you want to be fair to the guys roping too, and not, you know, you don't want to flag them out when it wasn't a Crossfire. So guys, like, there's so many runs that are easy to flag. There's so many, but there's some runs that are like, man.
No, there's a lot of gray area.
I've had discussions with this, and I was like, that was a Crossfire, and the guy says, no, it wasn't a Crossfire. With the guys that are been roping forever and know everything, and we have a chance to sit down and watch it. So when these guys have just a split second to make the decision, trying to be fair to the competitors, plus fair to everyone else, man, that is so hard to call in a split second.
Yeah, it's tough, and like I said earlier, you know, there's a gray area there that it is hard to call, but when you make that first call for the week, you're like, okay, these guys are sharp enough and have healed enough that they know, they're like, okay, it looks like I can get them on this jump, and then when you come back and take more or less the same shot, or even a safer shot, when we break it down, it's less questionable than round two, and then get called out for it. I hate it for these guys. It's a tough break. It was a round win call, you know, that early in the week. That's a huge momentum changer. And anyway, I'm glad y'all got to watch this. I'm glad, Matt, I got to break it down. I learned something. I learned a whole different way of viewing that and looking at it. You know, I was just reading stuff on Facebook, deciding which opinion I liked the most. And so anyway, it was good to get to see it from this view. To wrap it up, Tanner and Patrick out front leading the pack, looking amazing, haven't stubbed their toe. Up one steer on everybody, Caleb and Junior. Down one steer, haven't had a bad week. You know, they've won 50,000, but the gap between them and people and the guys behind them has closed a little bit. And so I would have to say, coming forward, I'd look for these guys to keep battling. And I'd hate to see what Caleb and Junior have coming, because when those guys get on fire, they may win the next 4 rounds, and we may be like, wow, we can't believe we thought anyone was close to them. So those guys are dominant. These guys are after them. It's going to be a fun 4 rounds of team roping. So thank y'all for tuning in to the replay. Thank you, Matt, for breaking this down with us. It's been a good day. We'll see y'all soon.
Get ready to go. Watch that horse. Boy, this could be fast. Can he heal it? He does.